see the trucks, the animals going in, but then half an hour later you see those same trailers going straight back out and they're just empty and it's just silence. And it's just, and
It's
they're
just
gone.
horrible. I think if most people allowed themselves to watch that, they would go vegan.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get non-vegans to go to a slaughterhouse, that'd be so powerful.
Compassionate people are our kind of people, so join us as we explore what it means to live with kindness. Hello everyone and welcome back to Conversations on Compassion. I'm your host Jade.
I'm Aaron.
And today we are joined by Alex, who is an animal rights activist and one of the latest members of Animal Aid's campaigns team. Thank you for joining us, Alex.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Perfect. So as it is World Vegan Month, can you start by telling us when you went vegan and why you went vegan?
Yeah, it's such a good question, isn't it? Everyone's got their own sort of stories of how they became vegan. So I've always thought of myself as an animal lover, as most people are. And, you know, when I was younger, I used to like dogs, used to like dolphins. We had a pet Westie when we were younger. And so I guess I've always, thought myself as an animal lover, but never had made that connection with, the choices that we make, the food we eat and the clothes we wear. Nearly 5 years ago, I met my now partner, my girlfriend Jasmine, and she was vegan. She is still vegan, but I wasn't. So I was this, classic meat eater and thought these, vegans were just weird hippies and didn't really know what veganism was. And a couple of months into the relationship, I sort of asked a bit more questions about, what is a vegan? Like, why are you vegan? And rightly so, she said the best thing is just to watch a documentary. So I sat down and I watched Earthlings, which if anyone knows what Earthlings is like, it's probably one of the kind of hardest hitting documentaries you can watch. It's similar to Dominion or The Land of Hope and Glory. And it just shows you a sort of snippets of everything in sort of the animal industry. So from food to clothing to the pet industry to entertainment, things like that. And it was just, you can't unsee the stuff in that documentary, the footage inside the slaughterhouses, how they kill the animals. And it's just, that was just that turning point for me. And it was kind of, I think it was towards the end of December. So Veganuary was coming up at the same time. And it was like such a good opportunity to be like, right, that's it. Purchasing no more animal products, we'll try Veganuary, and that was it, and never looked back. And so for me, it was quite a simple thing of seeing that footage, almost going vegan sort of overnight, and just being like, that's it.
Amazing. So you weren't veggie before?
No,
Okay.
which a lot of people do kind of go veggie first.
Yeah.
And
We were veggie. to
yeah.
Have you watched Earthlings?
No, I couldn't watch it.
No, I think because we both went vegetarian when we were really young, and then vegan kind of soon after hearing stuff. I guess I've always like justified in my head I don't need to watch it because I'm vegan anyway. But I do think there's an element, even we'll get into it a bit more, but some of your stuff that you've shared and that we've both watched snippets of, and I think it's sometimes, sometimes it's just traumatizing. If you're already taking action, don't just traumatize yourself, but also it can kind of light a bit of a fire onto you to be like,
absolutely,
like refresh in your mind, like, oh God, this is still happening. We need to.
Yeah, and when you like talk to people, you can sort of say stuff that you've seen, almost like rather than stuff that you hear. So it can be quite powerful, the things you see with your eyes.
Definitely. And I think watching documentaries is probably one of the best things to kind of make you change, because I think just hearing from someone it's weird, but psychologically I think you're not as likely to take it in. And I think my husband was the same as you. He kind of asked me a lot of questions, and then it was watching documentaries that ultimately made him make that decision, not to please me but for himself and to believe in it himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're not doing it, I'm asking you to go vegan, but it's like do it for yourself, do it for the animals, and like go away and watch this on your own and then make your decision about that, not just from stuff that you're hearing people say.
Yeah, and because you think it's the right thing.
Exactly,
Amazing.
How did you get started with activism?
Yeah, so this is actually quite, fairly recent. So a couple of years ago, I stumbled across NARD, so National Animal Rights Day, which basically have events all around the country, all around the world, and local to Bournemouth. Kind of just saw it was like a vegan market going on, and then realised there were speeches and stuff, and stumbled into NARD happening and started to speak to a couple of people. I think it was on like a Viva stall, and there was a We the Free stall, and I basically ended up for the first time just standing there with a placard that was, I think it was like, stop killing chickens or something. And I felt like such a rebel just holding this little placard in a vegan market in the Triangle. But that's then spurred on a few weeks later, walking through Bournemouth town, and there was a We the Free, which is an activist group which do a street outreach. And there was an event going on, and I thought, well, I'll go over. I recognised someone in there who was at that event at Nard, and I thought I'd scan the QR code and join their like Facebook group, and so tried to get involved with some further actions. And then a couple of weeks after that, the first action I took part was like a chalking event, chalktivism or chalking activism, I don't know what you want to call it. And it was outside the Oceanarium in Bournemouth, and it was basically just chalking about the animals, setting them free, how much they feel pain, they're intelligent. And then it kind of just opened the door then of then doing more We the Free events, doing street outreach, and it just started to expand more and more, started to meet more and more people. And then I started to do different types of activism, from not just street outreach, but doing things like demos, going and doing vigils, going to do sort of investigations, rescues, and sort of broadening my horizons as such, which really helped with our local community group, with these new animal action groups sort of popping up now and being connected with everyone in Bournemouth, Dorset, and starting to hear about lots of things going on and just try to get as involved in as much sort of activism as possible.
Amazing. So I think for me, one of the ones that kind of activism that really stands out and I think must be really harrowing is the slaughterhouse vigils, where I guess you're standing outside a slaughterhouse and watching these trucks go in and just bearing witness to the animals. Can you kind of tell us some of the things you've experienced doing that?
Yeah, they are heartbreaking. They are just... It's something that is so hard, and for us as like vegans, it's so hard for us to do, because we know that we're already fighting for them. To put ourselves through that is already, it's so difficult to do, but it's very impactful, it's very empowering, and you'll never forget your first vigil. And so for me, I will never forget the first cow's face that I saw, a dairy cow. A truck pulled up at one of these local farms, a small grey trailer. I think there's just one of these cows in the trucks, and they poked their head through the small slats in the top of the truck, and almost just breathed in the fresh air from the outside, just looked at me in the eyes, and I lost it. I just absolutely lost it. And I thought I'm a strong person. I've seen documentaries, but I will never forget that moment. And I think every activist has a similar thing when they go and do these vigils. And I've now run a local vigil group, Dorset Animal Save, because I wanted to do a vigil, because again, it was one of these things of I've seen documentaries, but I want to just witness it for myself. And basically managed to restart a vigil group. It's now grown to be one of the biggest animal save groups in the country. So we run vigils every single month in Dorset at various slaughterhouses, some of them cows, dairy cows, some of them sheep, so 6-month-old lambs going to slaughter. And we often go as a group, so we're always there around other people, and we can be that sort of supporting thing, as lots of people it'll be their first time, so it's nice to just offer some support, hugs and all that. But they're empowering, and some people say, well, why do you keep going? If you've seen them once, why do you keep doing it? But for me, it's always it's like fuel, it's a drive. You're just remembering exactly who you're fighting for. But also the imagery and the visuals you can get is so powerful to then share with the rest of the world. So we're there to document, take videos, pictures, put pressure on the slaughterhouses, but then share all that across the world on things like social media. And you can actually have much more of an impact that way. If they can't be there physically, you can share it online, and just from sharing a video of a cow in a slaughterhouse truck, you can get people going vegan just from watching that short snippet. So that's why we keep going, basically.
And it's not graphic, but I think it's some of the most harrowing, upsetting footage I've seen that really stays with me. Is just I think almost when you kind of read a book and imagining it is worse than actually seeing it in a film or something. It's a bit like that, where it's kind of, you're not seeing what happens, but just seeing that fear in their eyes and that anticipation. They know what's going on, and they can smell and hear.
Smells. It's just...
Can you hear sometimes when you're outside?
Yeah, there's been two, both cow slaughterhouses. There's one just north of Dorset, and if you go around the public footpath around the side, you're basically next to the kill floor, the sheds, and you can hear firstly the groans of the cows, and the most disturbing thing is you can hear the drop of the cow hitting the floor, and it is just awful. There's no words that kind of explain that situation. It's just absolutely horrendous. And but otherwise, you do often just hear, even if you're stood well back, you hear these deep groans, which is like them crying out because they know what's about to happen. They're being forced in, and you can literally hear them crying out.
It's really I don't even know what the word is, but I went to a kind of haunted house kind of maze thing yesterday, and one of them was kind of inside. It was meant to be like inside a factory, and they kind of were coming at you with chainsaws, and you're all like being pushed through. And I just started crying when I was in there, because I just thought like there's people coming at you and there's nowhere to go. And I was like, oh, this is like humans are doing this for a thrill. This is the reality of a slaughterhouse, where you're all trapped in this little line. There's no way out. You've got no control. But it's not a game. It's not something you've paid to do for fun. Like that's their real life, and they're coming to kill you. And it really kind of got me. I thought, the parallel of
put yourself in their position, and just get a snippet of how that must feel for them.
Like absolutely horrific. It's just
and one of the differences again, like obviously you were able to come out of that maze, or come out of that haunted house.
I knew it wasn't real.
But the bit that people kind of forget is, you see the trucks, the animals going in, but then half an hour later you see those same trailers going straight back out, and they're just empty, and it's just silence, and it's just
it's
and they're
just
gone.
Horrible. I think if most people allowed themselves to watch that, they would go vegan.
Definitely. If you can get non-vegans to go to a slaughterhouse, that'd be so powerful.
I can't comprehend how you could watch that and then
people just don't think, do they get their roasting or whatever with beef or chicken, they don't think about what it was or where it came from or how it was killed.
And I don't want to because I think most people probably know that if they let themselves think, they would have to make a change, because I think most people are hopefully inherently good and want to do the right thing, but
it's in the back of their mind. They're keeping disconnected, and like you say, the animals on a slaughterhouse truck looks very different to the items packaged up on a shelf or in a meal or whatever it is.
You mentioned the dairy cow that you had an experience with. Are there any other individual animals that have really stuck with you?
I mean that cow vision will stay with me for life, and I'll always remember that cow. But there's a couple of other animals just whilst doing activism, various events and things like that have stuck with me. So turkeys, for example, like I never realised, I've never been like close up to a turkey, never really understood them, but I went to an animal sanctuary a couple of times and seen turkeys and been around them, and oh my god, they're like the most loving, adorable creatures. They are just amazing beings, and they've all got such like personalities. They're both individuals, and they just always just come up to you for cuddles. And if people, like especially with Christmas coming up, if people would just spend just 5 minutes with one of these turkeys in person, like how on earth could you put that on your dinner table? It would just so like I feel like turkeys have just an animal that I never have been close with, and now really have a nice connection with them. And especially around Christmas time, I'm always just trying to really advocate to save the turkeys basically. And a couple of other animals that have stuck with me, so foxes as well. So I was one of the people that thought fox hunting had ended. Sadly not. It still goes on, and I've seen firsthand what happens to these foxes getting chased through fields. And it's just crazy again, like how these loving, cute foxes and baby foxes, and the fact there's people out there literally trying to hunt them for fun, just totally baffles me. And
insane.
Absolutely crazy. And then another one which may not be as I don't know how to word this, popular maybe, but was a magpie. So I had a really interesting experience with a magpie. I was early morning. I was going down to the gym, and I got to the end of my road, didn't get far, and there was this magpie kind of in the road, but still moving, and a lot of kind of commotion going around with the other magpies, and clearly being attacked, I think. So I was thinking, do I go to the gym? Do I save this magpie? Like, screw the gym, I'm gonna go. And didn't have anything on me, just kind of picked them up and took them back home. Opened the front door, and my partner was just half asleep, was like, what have you got a magpie in your hand? And then tried to nurture them back to health. They're clearly ill, been beaten up, and spent a lot of time. Then had to take them to a friend's. 'Cause I had to be in Southampton like very, very shortly. I was like, well, what do I do? So I luckily had a close friend who could look after them for the rest of the day and try to nurture them back to health. But this was when sort of avian flu was really rife. So unfortunately they ended up going to the vets and there was nothing they could do, and had to poor old, we named them May the magpie. So yeah, again, just like they had such personality and characteristics, and I feel like anytime you spend time with individual animals, you actually realize that these are all individuals. They're not just, you know, they're not just a number, they're not just, you know, a food. They are people, they are someone.
We were chatting to Monique, so I'm not sure if her episode's coming out first or yours, but it'll either be the one before this or after this. But Monique runs an animal sanctuary, so she gets to experience, I feel like it's almost the flip side of a lot of what you do, is you see the animals that aren't so lucky, but she's got the lucky few who have been rescued and really get to show their individual personalities. And it's kind of, it's so lovely, but it's also heartbreaking knowing that that is just a tiny percentage of all of the animals, and that they've all got those personalities, but no one will ever get to see that or experience it.
And that's why, you know, Animal Aid recently did the sort of the sanctuary visit to show school kids that experience, because I think everyone should go and, you know, try and spend some time with these animals in obviously ethical sanctuaries, not farms or anything like that, but if you do get the opportunity to do it in an ethical way, and you could just have that connection with them, then you just learn so much, and you'll realise that these are all compassionate beings, and we should treat them with kindness.
So you do a lot of street outreach. Can you tell us about some of the most impactful conversations or experiences you've had?
Yeah, and street outreach is really interesting because you actually get to like speak to the public, and really I always think it's quite a good learning process. Like, what do people actually think? What are their values? But it was going back to that very first sort of street outreach I did at We the Free. I always try and tell this story because it was just like, it seemed so easy. So there was a lovely lady, and she came to do the 3-minute movie challenge and to watch like 3 minutes of basically like a full-length documentary, just snipped down into 3 minutes. And she was just bawling her eyes out, floods of tears, and she was just like, well, what can I do? And she was already vegetarian but didn't realise the extent of like the dairy and the egg industry. So that's why outreach is so powerful, because they see that, and then you have someone there to explain, like the footage is the why, like but then someone's there to help you with the how. And so there it was just like such an easy conversation. It was like, you're clearly compassionate, you're clearly like vegan yourself. It's just like, now this is what you need to do to swap out, you know, some foods and change your lifestyle, try slightly tweak it, so removing the animals. And she went vegan pretty much from that day onwards, and then more recently she's now an activist for We the Free doing the same thing. And it's just like so nice to have that, you know, passing it on, and you never know what impact just one person can have, because you know, one person can make one person vegan, but they make more people vegan, and it's that snowball chain reaction. So never doubt the power of a conversation. And so that's why I always do like outreach like We the Free, where you do show the footage and be there to explain it, because it sort of helps them. But other interesting experiences, there was a recent one in Southampton where we were doing a We the Free event outside on the high street, and there were these 2 security cars that came over, and I thought, oh, they're probably here to move us on, kick us out. But actually one of them decided to go to do the 3-minute movie challenge, and he was really compassionate, and he decided to go vegan after that, after a long conversation. And his security guard was almost at like the other end of the spectrum. So they were kind of, we were having this lot of group outreach, and, you know, arguments back and forth between the 2 security guards. And then obviously they went away back to their jobs, and they were going to go and have lunch together. And you think, well, one of them's now just gone vegan after watching that footage, the other one's not. Like, they're going to have a great conversation now. And it's just like, you wouldn't have expected these security guards to actually come and engage with us, and one of them walked away being vegan. So
that's so cool,
so powerful. I guess there's another interesting example was Elwood's dog meat. I don't know if you've heard of Elwood's dog meat. That's been a really fun one to do, because you're pretending to sell dog meat products on the street, and you're almost putting yourself in the position which you're usually fighting against. And it's like funny saying, well, you know, what's wrong with it? It's humane, it's ethical, and everyone is in uproar. There was a guy in Southampton who was just like shouting, trying to get everyone over, going, these horrible people, they're selling dog meat, this is awful, and, you know, really passionate. And then eventually we told them, by the way, this is just like vegan sausage, we're vegans. And he's like, and then realised the hypocrisy.
So he wasn't veggie or vegan?
No,
himself?
not at all. And like we were like, yeah, well, we got him basically because he's clearly someone who's really vocal about some species, like dogs. So again, like it's really interesting the different types of activism and outreach that you can do, all these different experiences.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We were chatting with Monique as well. So her and I both have meat trade rescue dogs, and I guess that Elwood meat is a prime example of we get such different reactions when we talk about where our dogs are rescued from, and people are like, "That's outrageous! How could anyone do this?" And then if Monique mentions that she has rescued pigs or chickens, people are a bit like, "Oh," just
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good way to get people to think.
Yeah, difference of cultures, you know. In Asia,
that's the only
China.
difference is what you're societally conditioned to think is normal.
Exactly.
They're animals themselves. There's no difference with like fear, pain, joy, happiness. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
It would be great to hear how you use social media as part of your activism, particularly the live streams.
Yeah. Social media is an interesting one. It's very much had to be a learn as you go kind of journey. I've always struggled with confidence being on like camera and things like that. And like at first doing activism, it was just like post a couple of photos from an outreach, but then seeing other maybe well-known activists like Jerry Carbstrong, Earthling Ed, like was always fascinated by when they would record their outreach. So eventually I decided to pluck up the courage and dug out my old GoPro and the cheapest microphone I could have and started to just record some conversations. And then now I'm doing it more and more, and eventually built up a lot more confidence to do it. And I'm so glad I have, because the videos now, you know, as a small kind of social media platform, like following, but you can still reach thousands and thousands of people. That was a snippet of a conversation I had with someone on the street talking about halal foods, and just like that one reel on Instagram itself has got, I think it's about 250,000 views now. And like on TikTok, there's another video of just, you know, filming one of the cows going into the slaughterhouse, and that's got like over 250,000 views just in those one videos. And you add all of those up and it's just incredible. You can reach millions of people within like a couple of weeks with content, and it's that I feel like, you know, going back quite a few years, you would never have done that. And I feel like we've got this great opportunity in 2025 to utilize all these platforms, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. And yeah, I guess like the luxury as well, you can just cross post stuff. So you take one video, you just post everywhere, and you just reach all these different audiences. But yeah, so your point around live streaming, again, this is very, very recent, which I've started to get used to and learning. And so I did my first couple of live streams, and it got like a couple hundred views. And I thought, well, you know, that's still better than nothing. But then, as people have told me, like, you do it, keep doing it, and like the platform will trust you. And now my live streams just get thousands of people. So I can recently we did as part of a project live stream, which I can talk about in a minute. Like one day I got about, I think it was like 20,000 in the morning doing a vigil, and then did some Greyhound outreach in the afternoon, got another like 10,000, and so it's like suddenly 30,000 views whilst doing the same actions you would do in person anyway. So the way I see it is like when you're doing outreach, you talk to one person, which is great. Then if you put it on social media, like doing reels and stuff, you reach more people. But then when you live stream it, you're just opening the door to people to come into that same conversation. So you've got, you know, 30,000 people like being an audience. It's like having an outreach conversation in the middle of a football stadium with thousands of people like listening and commenting, and it's just, it's such a good opportunity to reach people, and you can like talk to the screen as such and respond to comments. And so many people like go vegan on the chat. So many people have like genuine questions, and you can speak to them, and it's just like, again, an opportunity. When would you ever be able to speak to like thousands of people in the space of like 2 hours? It's really incredible. And, you know, kudos to, I don't know if you know Mel and Steve, so it's Mel and Steve. They've created this kind of campaign called Project Livestream. So like myself, they go to a lot of slaughterhouses and film the cows and sheep and chickens going in, and they wanted to basically try and mobilize more people to do these live streams because it's such a good opportunity. And so now they try and like help small creators, you know, basically unlock live stream on like YouTube and sort of help them to go live. And so now I think we've just done our 5th project live streams. It's like pretty much every month. So on one day we all like, the dozens of activists all go to different slaughterhouses all around the country, all live streaming. And it's funny because then when people like have come onto my stream, they're basically saying, I'm literally scrolling on YouTube and all I'm seeing is slaughterhouse footage. And it was like we're taking over the YouTube vertical live stream platform just because there's so
really
many
cool.
of us. And it's, yeah, it's really, really powerful. And so glad to kind of be a part of that. And
amazing.
very, very clever initiative. Yeah.
So I think you've mentioned to us before, but have you found YouTube to be the best place to live stream?
At the moment, I'd say yes. I think because, you know, all these social platforms are always changing, like what's the latest trend, and like I think YouTube is now massively pushing like vertical live stream content. So like definitely, and like I think just on Project Livestream on when the recent was number 5, like dozens of activists, I think we hit about nearly 150,000 views. Wow. So eyes, you know, on the slaughterhouses, and then from that posting the reels afterwards. So I'd say at the moment it's YouTube, but you know, TikTok might come back and YouTube might, you know, change to doing like long form videos again or vlogging videos. So it's trying to stay up with the latest trends. But at the moment, YouTube is a definite opportunity. So encourage anyone to, you know, whatever your activism is, just try going live and you just reach so many more people.
This isn't on one of the questions, but how would you cope mentally with some of the comments where they're like, oh, we were, you know, you have to eat meat or bacon sandwiches? Like, do you respond to them, or do you, you know, what's, you know, how do you cope mentally with, because it's very draining?
It's a great question. And unfortunately, like when you're like doing a live stream, you're seeing the comments coming through. Like, let's say there's 100 people in the room at the moment on a live stream, and you probably have a very small portion of the vocal people who are just like the trolls, just there to like pick you apart. They'll like, whatever you're wearing, they'll pick it apart. Whatever you're like really self-conscious about, they'll probably point it out. And it's the first couple of times it's like, oh, this, you know, it does kind of take its toll. But you know that they're only saying that because they don't have any other valid argument against what we're speaking for, so they have to take like personal attacks. But you know, some people do comment sort of valid questions, you know, well, don't we need to eat meat, or you know, where do you get your B12 from? And that's where I take it as more of, you know, let's act as a form of education. You say, you know, you don't need to, you know, quote some studies and you know, prove myself that you don't need to eat meat, get enough vitamins and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I do try and respond to their comments, but if they're, you know, just like comments like you're an idiot, you know, what you're doing is useless, I'll just try and blank them out, ignore them, because otherwise you sort of spur them on and they do more. But yeah, it can be kind of hard hitting, but I just, I've kind of got in my mind now, they're only doing that because they don't have anything else that they can say, and they just they think they're funny. But I know, again, so that's only a very small percentage of the people in that live stream, and the other 80-90% are probably people that are genuinely listening, genuinely learning. So I've always got to remember that don't put the attention on these, you know, annoying subgroup of people, and there's that, you know, better use of time to what I could be speaking about. And always, you know, thinking mentally, like, yes, they might say some horrible things, but if one person goes vegan on that live stream, it's a win, and so worth it.
Sure. So if someone wants to get into activism but they're a little bit nervous or unsure how to start, what advice would you give them? Yeah,
I think firstly, like, I guess, like, be brave. It's, again, like myself, I struggle with confidence. I never would have even thought of coming on a podcast years ago. And it's just a case of just like, try and do something. And again, it's like, you see lots of activists doing lots of different things. Like, don't think you have to do everything. Don't think you have to do, you know, all these radical actions if you're, you know, fairly intimidated. But the idea of, like, for my personal view, is like, try all the different types of activism out. So maybe try talking to someone on the streets and see if you like it. Maybe try, you know, going to do vigils, try and, you know, go into farms and investigate, or whatever it might be, but find what your style is, what works for you, and what is sustainable for you. Because again, like, when you see other people, they often might do one or two things that they then resonate with much more effectively, and it's all about, you know, having an impact. So I'd say, you know, be brave and just try, you know, dip your toes into a couple of things, and see what resonates with you most. But also, like, lean on your local communities. So if you've got any sort of like vegan groups, animal action groups, like, they're there to support you and guide you. And if you have questions, and that massively helps your efforts. Like, don't always think you have to do it alone. You know, join a local We the Free, Animal Aid Outreach, whatever the organisations are, And again, like, you can learn, you can be kind of taught things, you could do trainings, and like, know that there's people around you, and we've all started from the same position before. Like, we're by no means experts, but we've all had to go through the same struggle at some point around whatever the activism is. So I'd just say try and be brave to try something out, even if you only do it once. At least you can say, well, I tried. And know that there probably is something out there for you. And as well, like, everyone has their own different kind of strategies and opinions and ways of doing things and what is most effective. But like, you can do things in person, but you can do things online. And if you can do things that are suited to introverts, and you can do things that are associated with extroverts. So if you don't want to shout in a megaphone, well, maybe you could do social media posts online. And I feel like there is something for everyone. It's just finding that style.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, to just give things a go. And I think that is a huge thing for people to remember. If you're a bit shy or you're nervous, you can reach so many people online, so you don't even have to leave your house to be able to do loads for animals. So
exactly.
And as you say, I think if you just make one person go vegan, it's a difference. It's making a huge difference.
Yeah, thousands of lives of animals.
Yeah.
And you never know who that person will influence.
That one vegan might turn into a huge animal rights activist and save even more. Like, you just never know the impact you have and the seeds that you can plant. Even if, as well, like, let's say you try and do a street outreach, and you feel like you've had some bad conversations maybe, and you don't feel successful, but you never truly know the impact like a conversation would have had. Like, they might say, oh, I'm not going to go vegan, but actually that would be maybe the first seed or time they've heard it, and then someone else might speak to them, and then just nudging them along into becoming, vegan and learning more about the animals. So there's never really a bad conversation, because you're putting it into the front of their mind. So just don't be disheartened if, it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go sometimes. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on at Animal Aid?
Yeah, so recently joined the Animal Aid team. Focusing on basically campaigns against animal experiments and testing. Obviously, we want the whole lot abolished, banned. So animal testing, animal experiments is outdated, ineffective, and just completely inhumane. It's unethical, torturing animals for under the name of science. So it's obviously we know that we have much better human appropriate solutions. So we have things like organ on a chip now, where you can replicate lungs and liver organs on a chip. We've got 3D models, computer models, human tissue, human cells, that give us much better results, better science. And the fact that we don't need to keep animals in laboratories, we don't need to torture them, and ultimately animals that get killed after these experiments, we don't need to do it. There's the statistic around 92% of animal experiments that pass the animal testing phase fail in human clinical trials.
92%.
Yeah, 92%. In what other business with a 92% failure rate would you not think, maybe there's a better way of doing this?
That doesn't involve killing as well. It's not even just a little harmless or give it a go.
Well, this is
taking lives.
This is the thing. Like when you look at let's say we take mice, after they've been experimented on, you will see in the when the project and stuff gets approved, and they have to note what happens to the animals after the experiments, and they just simply write killed or discarded or waste. Not only do they test on them, they end up being killed in the name of science. But I'd always the other always try and think about that species differences. Like, why on earth are we trying to look at other species to give the human species kind of solutions? And the best example I always tell people that for people that don't know too much about science or animal experiments is the example of dogs, using dogs in experiments. So we as humans, we consume chocolate, we love chocolate. If anyone's got pet dogs or companion animal dogs, if you give chocolate to your dog, it's toxic and it's poisonous, it can kill them. We're testing on thousands of beagle puppies at MBR Acres, and to try and give us human related solutions, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
So with all these species differences, why would we not look at human related solutions? It just doesn't make sense. So so the campaigning's basically against all of that, and trying to get the whole industry to change and to phase out animal testing. Obviously we want it ASAP. We know that the government are soon to release a roadmap of phasing it out. We know it won't be soon enough, but we hope that the end is in sight. And yeah, in terms of like specific campaigns, so relaunching our Universities Challenge campaign. So in 2020, I think there was a study that showed that almost half, or just over half, of all animal experiments that happen in the country happen at universities. And it's all under the name of basic research. So this isn't sort of, you know, all these like toxicology tests for, you know, mandated requirements. These are often just a researcher thinking, okay, I want to test this hypothesis out. What would happen if, you know, I do this to this animal? What would the result be? So it's under basic research. So half of all of them happen at universities, and that's, you know, again, such a huge portion of the testing. We know that it doesn't even need to happen for the products anyway. So yeah, that's a huge campaign to just, you know, get all the data, expose the data, and get, you know, actions at all the universities to shut down the experiments happening on local campuses. And also highlighting the other campaign of the Victims of Charity. So a lot of charities do medical research on animals, and again, like, we know there's human appropriate solutions out there, and there was the example, I can't remember the specific example, but the idea that there was a drug that basically didn't pass the animal testing phase, and so usually the drug would have been discarded, but they actually continued it with humans and realized that it was actually perfectly suitable for humans. And we would never have had that drug because they would have failed it on animals, and because someone, I think, persevered and tried it on humans, it actually worked. And you think, well, all these charities out there, you know, like cancer research, like how much better would we be off with the solutions using human appropriate, you know, testing essentially. So yeah, highlighting the charities that test on animals and basically try and get them to move to non-animal methods. Yeah, as well as, I guess, outside of animal experiments, supporting all the various campaigns that we've got. You know, veganism and animal rights covers a whole breadth of issues, from food, farming, to, you know, clothing, fur, wool. We've got, you know, animals in entertainment, horse racing, greyhound racing. There's a lot of campaigns about, you know, banning the greyhound racing. We've got the petition going at the moment.
Yes, please sign it.
Please do sign it.
So before we go, we have one question that we ask everyone. You have one meal to turn a meat eater vegan. What are you feeding them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, more generically, I'd say, like, you can make any food vegan, like any of the dishes they eat now, like, you can make them vegan. Like me personally, what I would probably cook and feel confident would be a Thai red curry. Had it last night, actually, that's why it's in the front of my mind. But like healthy, quick, easy, tasty, you know, simple. It's going to turn into a recipe now. This is how you make it. But like 10-stem broccoli, mange tout, baby corn and pak choy, stir fry it with the Thai red curry paste, mix it in with some peanuts, nuts, and then maybe a bit of tofu or, you know, vegan chicken, coconut milk, mix it all together, fry it off, put it with some jasmine rice. Delicious.
You weren't joking, you're giving us the recipe.
Yeah, literally, there you go. You can have that one for free.
Amazing.
But also, I would add a dessert. So at the weekend, I was with an incredible chef. She's called Charlotte Roy. She was on MasterChef, and she was teaching us lots of different dishes, like really good quality. And the best one that came out was what she phrased as an emergency dessert, because everyone needs an emergency pudding. It's basically this chocolate dessert which you can literally make with like 3 ingredients: just a bar of dark chocolate, vegan dark chocolate, vegan cream, so like Oatly or other brands available, and like silken tofu, and you just like 1 equal part of each, blend it all together, whack it in the fridge, and then serve it with maybe a bit of cranberry sauce or some nuts on top, and it just turns into this like chocolatey pudding mousse. So quick, so easy, like high in protein, and it's just, yeah, it's brilliant. Like, so now you've all got an emergency pudding in case you need it, and you're crediting Charlotte for that though.
I love this. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing with Animal Aid.
As always, thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share it with your friends to help us inspire kindness for animals. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at animalaid_UK, on Facebook and YouTube at Animalaid, and on Blue Sky at animalaid.org.uk. See you next time.